Good morning, everyone. My name is Shirley Hernandez. I'm a work-based learning coordinator for MDUSD. And today we have Christopher Ervin, who's going to be talking to you all about what he does for Honda Corporation. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
All right. My name is Chris. Good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm a field technical specialist for American Honda Motors, or as everybody knows, Honda and Acura. Um, I've been in this position for a little over a year and a half, and I've been working with Honda for almost 7 years now in various capacities. But originally, I started a lot like you guys in high school. I took a couple of auto shop courses over my junior and senior year then. Uh, Found I had an affinity for technical, working on cars, that kind of thing. But in my particular case, I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do. I just knew I enjoyed it. So for quite a few years after high school, I just worked on my own stuff until it was actually a car show that I attended, and there was a big Mercedes booth, and they were hiring or recruiting technicians. So I asked about it, and I found out that there was actually a technical trade school um, that was newer to the area. You may all have heard of or might hear of Universal Technical Institute. There's one up here in the Sacramento area too. Uh, but they had just opened one in Southern California, which is where I'm from, and decided to go give it a try. I hadn't had much success in other careers I was trying, so went to school for the year and a half. While I was going to school, I made sure I was working in the field. I worked at the city of Corona. I worked at U-Haul. I worked at a Volkswagen dealership. And as I was doing all that, I worked my way up to Audi and eventually Porsche. Uh, when I graduated UTI, I was accepted uh, into a program for Porsche graduate program is what it was called. And so I did that for 6 months in Georgia. Came back and was working at a Porsche dealer for about 5 years as a technician. And eventually, I decided I wanted to be more corporate. I didn't want to necessarily be in the dealership working on the cars, so I applied for Honda, and they hired me on as a what they call tech line. So basically, I would take phone calls from technicians at dealerships who were having a hard time fixing cars, and I would help them over the phone try to fix their car. And from there, I moved into the publications group in Honda. They're the ones in charge of um, editing the service manual and uh, wiring diagrams and getting information out to technicians so that they have all the information they need to fix the cars. So that was another unique experience. And then eventually I took this position, which is basically, my wife likes to call it I'm a lemon buster. So when you have vehicles that are difficult to fix, the dealers are having a hard time, or technicians having a hard time fixing your car. I cover 70 Honda and Acura dealers up here in Northern California, from San Luis Obispo all the way up to the Oregon border. And I'll go to the dealer and help them figure out what's going on with the car and get it fixed so that the customer is happy. And that's about where I'm at right now. Um, I don't know, should we go with questions?
Yeah, I think what Melissa was getting at, if you can explain a little bit about the different jobs, I mean, in depth, or how you could get those jobs, I think that would be very good too.
Sure. So one of the keys, I mean, starting out in the automotive field, there's different paths. You know, you can start at a dealer or even an independent repair facility. So they're privately owned. They usually work on a wide range of cars. Um, that's going to be a lot more on the job training. At a dealer, you know, you can even just get in as somebody that washes and moves cars, and that's just to get familiar with people. You meet people that way. Um, you know, and often technicians you know, if you're doing the same thing or you want to do the same thing that they do, they're more than happy to help out, you know, and train you. That's something that I benefit from, you know, every day still is I learn more as I help people more. So that's a good place to start. Um, the independent, it just depends on the repair shop, but they're going to get you up to speed pretty quick. For me, the trade school was the way to go. Um, and the key to that too is it's all about attitude, right? If you're really passionate about working on cars, you enjoy learning about cars and working on them. That's going to get you further than anything because it makes it easier for anybody that's trying to help you uh, to actually help you. So when I was going to trade school, I was paying my own way at that point, so I made the most of every part of it. It doesn't necessarily matter how good the trade school is; it's what you make of it. So, asking the questions and being attentive and absorbing as much information as you can. That's all going to help you to succeed. Even if your grades aren't necessarily the best, but your understanding will show through when you're on the job, when you're working with guys.
The next question is, what does a day to day look like for you?
So most days for me is about half on the road, half on the or yeah, about a quarter on the road, about a quarter on the computer, and then about half of the time I'm at the dealer working with a technician. Um, there's a lot of scheduling for me at this point because I basically work out of my house, which is it's a blessing and a curse a little bit because you have to stay on task. But it's also nice because I do make my own schedule. The driving, I really like driving in Northern California up here. Went to Eureka just a couple weeks ago, and lots of beautiful country out here. So that's a really nice aspect. But once I'm at the dealer, there's a lot I have to go over. There's troubleshooting is a big part of working on cars. Service work, doing your oil changes and brake jobs and that kind of thing. that's easy stuff. You learn that, and that's more about being efficient and fast at it. But troubleshooting is really the meat of working on cars because stuff's going to break down or people aren't going to understand how a certain system works, and you need to be able to determine if that's actually a broken car or if it's just something that they maybe don't like as much, but that's just how it's made, and whether you can actually make a good repair or not. So when I'm at the dealer, there's a lot of questions. We talk a lot about the 5 steps of troubleshooting, and that's actually that's an important thing to understand, not just for cars. It's something you can actually use, throughout your life, and figuring out when something's going wrong. Well, let's verify what the problem actually is, and then we need to understand it, analyze it, make a repair, and then verify that it's fixed. Those are very important. So the better you can get at that, the more you can understand how to troubleshoot properly, the further you're going to go.
So you are called on when the techs can't really figure it out. You're the next person that they call on. What type of jobs are you being called to?
So there's most of the time they're what we call an intermittent problem. So it's not failing every time, but every once a day, once every couple days, the car might do something funny. And those are the really hard ones to fix because when it comes into the shop, everything's working. So you have to figure out, how do I move forward with troubleshooting? Do I try to get it to fail the same way? There's a lot of working with the customer and trying to understand exactly what they're doing when it happens, and trying to recreate that so that we can understand and do any testing to try to narrow it down to a specific component or a bad connection or something like that. Right now, the big deal is, excuse me, because cars are getting so much more advanced. A lot of these new cars, especially the bigger SUVs and minivans, you have effectively a home theater system in your car, right? You've got the screen and the Blu-ray and everything. So that's gotten so much more complicated that there's a lot more to understand than even mechanically. Electrical is probably your biggest going to be your biggest challenge, but it can also serve you well if you're good at it. But yeah, trying to figure out when they're using CarPlay, when they're using Android Auto, they're, plugging different devices into the car and different things happen. It's hard for even us to understand because there's so many possibilities, so many variables going on there, that we have to try to nail down exactly what's happening. But also it's hard for customers to understand because, even like the computers we're on right now, they glitch. Things happen just for different random reasons. Sometimes you just got to turn it off and turn it back on again, and it works fine. But that's probably the biggest challenge right now is because these cars are getting so advanced. Even with the new electric cars, hybrid cars, that sort of thing, is an understanding of how they're supposed to work, how they're supposed to feel when you're driving them. It's not like, the engines of old, so to speak. So this is a good time for you guys to definitely be getting into it because there is so much changing. You're probably going to be more on the forefront of understanding a lot of the new technologies, and it'll come a little bit easier to you than old guys like me trying to have to relearn.
Did you want to talk a little bit about like the starting salary, if there's any certifications that you need to get? Um, yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the things about the auto repair business is that there's really no certification you have to work on a car. Not like if you were an electrician or a plumber or something like that, where you need to certify with a state. But that being said, there is the Automotive Service Excellence, ASE, standardized testing that you can take. And even though it's not required, taking those tests, I think there's 12 for each different system on the car. Taking those tests and having that certification certainly looks good on a, excuse me, a job application. So the more you can prove yourself that way, the easier it's going to be to find a job and the higher your pay is going to be. We deal with that even here at Honda. We have our own training, and I work with the instructor. He's out of a French camp there near Stockton. And there's online self-studies that the technicians have available to them. And then there's in-person training that kind of go hand in hand. And even now with a lot of these guys, we have to really try to work with them to make sure they get their training done. For them, it's free. It's paid for by Honda to do this training. So, I mean, that's free money. As long as you take the time to do it and you pay attention and absorb as much as you can from it, you're going to carry that with you the rest of your career. You just have to do it the one time, and maybe some refreshers here and there, but take as much as you can from any training you can get. That as certainly if it's free. As far as starting out too, when you at a dealer, and this can be for just about any manufacturer. Like I said, you can start out just washing cars and moving cars. They have shuttle drivers that will take customers, to and from their house. And then eventually you can move up to, they usually have like an express service where you start learning about how to inspect the car, do the oil change, make recommendations for some components, air filters, other service work, that sort of thing. And as long as you work hard at that and they see that you're learning and you're understanding, you're asking questions, it won't take long before they bring you into the shop. And usually you'll end up working with a shop foreman or a team lead, somebody that's experienced, and you'll actually help make money for them, and then they also pay you. Most of the time, 2 to 5 years as far as training goes. My trade school was about 2 years. But if you're in a dealer, say you started at a Honda dealer, and they wanted to send you to training, it'll probably take you a good 5 years of between your online studies and going to the in-person training to get to what they call a master technician level. And again, that all helps with your pay. For the most part, the industry works using what they call a flat rate system. So what that means is the customer comes in and they want an oil change. They're going to pay you, let's say $20 an hour, and you get paid 1 hour to do the oil change. If it takes you longer than an hour to do the oil change, you still get paid an hour. But if it takes you 45 minutes, you still get paid the hour. So the idea being that as you learn and grow, you're going to get faster and faster with little or no mistakes, and that's how you end up making more and more money. Uh, is being able to, and this is why troubleshooting is so important. The faster that you can troubleshoot, and the more efficient you can be about it. Guys can what they call flag. They can flag 10 and 12, 15 hours a day for 8 hours of work.
How has the industry changed in the last 5 years, and then what do you predict is going to change in the industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
So yeah, that's interesting. Is that the the cars they're getting more complex, but they're also getting they're trying to simplify how to fix them. So years ago you had carburetors, and you had a lot of adjustments and different things you could do, valve adjustments. That was maintenance on the car. As we get more and more of these hybrid and electric vehicles, we don't have that powertrain anymore. We don't have the engine like we're used to. So the maintenance is going to be less, and it's more about finding which part needs to be replaced. And uh, not so much it's not as much of a craft as it used to be, where um, the you really had to understand how everything worked, and you worked on it on a daily basis. So for these new cars, even us here in corporate Honda, as technical specialists and everything, it's hard for us to keep up with a lot of the new technology they're bringing out, because I'm so busy in the dealer, just dealing with what we have right now, that what's coming out next year and the year after that, there's not a lot of time for training. So it's really kind of on the fly. Um, but the key to that is just being resourceful. Um, you don't have to memorize everything. You don't have to remember that, well, the timing sequence on a 1985 Chevy S10 V6 is, 1524. You don't have to remember that. It's written down somewhere. So understanding where to find the information, and being able to interpret it, that's going to be the most important. And then, like I said, with everything that is changing as far as electrification or electric vehicles going forward, it's all emerging technology. They're all still, every manufacturer kind of has their own way of doing things so far, and eventually it'll be more standard, like what our cars are now. Um, but you guys will be on the forefront of that as you're going through these classes, and if you go through trade school or start training with a dealer, you're going to be at the forefront of that training. So you're going to get more training than I will probably over the next 5 years.
Next question. How has COVID affected your job?
That's a very good question. So for me, because I was out in the field, technically I was considered an essential worker because I was supporting dealers who were working on customers' vehicles. And that could be anybody, firefighters or paramedics or nurses that need to get to work on a daily basis. So in a little bit of an extended way, I was considered essential. But it definitely, everything slowed down quite a bit. Dealers, people weren't coming in to get their cars fixed, either because they weren't driving them or they were just sheltering in place at home. They didn't have to go to work. So yeah, everything slowed down a little bit. I was actually working out of the house for about 2 months and doing everything remotely, which kind of fell back on my days at the call center on Tech Line in Southern California, that technicians would call or email, and I would have to follow up and ask questions. And if you think troubleshooting a car in front of you is difficult over a phone, it takes your troubleshooting level even higher, because you really have to think outside of the box. But we're getting back to it at this point. It's starting to pick up a little bit. Honda was very prepared as far as providing us with some direction and policy and protective equipment to safely go to these dealers and help work on the cars. So yeah, it was definitely a struggle this year. Yeah, but the light at the end of the tunnel is there. Where I'm out just about every day now at a dealer helping out. So
That's good. You don't have to be home all day. um, and then the next question is, what are some of the challenges that you faced in your path to get to where you are right now? And then some of the highlights that you want to point out.
So yeah, we'll start with the challenges. Yeah, I guess one of the things that you could take away would be that when you get into a position, into a dealer, if you're a technician or you're doing service work, independent repair facility, um, the one thing that uh, I would say is a challenge, you want to think that the grass is always greener somewhere else, and it really it's no different. The main difference is going to be actually just you and your attitude and how you approach things. You know, yeah, this dealer might be a little bit better than that dealer. This repair shop might, you know, pay a little bit better, but all in all, it's really all about the same. It doesn't matter if you go to Mercedes, Porsche, Honda, Subaru. You know, the dealers are all run about the same. The cars are all very similar, uh, and the repair process is basically the same. So like I said, if you enjoy it, if you're very technical and you have a passion for it, you're going to do well, you know, and you'll do well anywhere because you have a better attitude. Um, as far as the highlights, so yeah, certainly when I graduated UTI, Universal Technical Institute, um, I was able to graduate with a 4.0 GPA. They give away Student of the Phase awards. There were 17 phases, and I had 9 Student of the Phase awards. You know, just making the most of it, and then getting into that Porsche graduate program, going to training for 6 months in Georgia for Porsche was awesome. Um, More recently with Honda, I got to do in the publications department. They made tech to tech videos. So what that was every month there would be a topic or a couple of topics, and we would go into a studio and produce videos that would be shared with technicians to help them with a certain repair, a certain troubleshooting, you know, new technical information, that sort of thing. So I got to be on camera talent for 5 or 6 of those episodes. Um, and also here at Honda, I've been able to work with everybody from all the way to the factory in Ohio to Japan. Many meetings with you know translators and Japan staff, and it's there's so much opportunity here to learn and to move around, that it's well, let me hear.
What interests you specifically about your position? And then I had another question, but I'll ask you after.
Okay, so this position, like I said, I do like the driving. I like the travel, visit the different dealers. Again, troubleshooting over the phone does take your ability higher, but what you're able to accomplish when you're actually at the dealer, speaking with technician, the service writer, um, service manager, and sometimes the customer, you get much better information. You learn better questions to ask. You just get even that much better. But part of it too is being able to share information, because I was a technician, and there's a little bit of a funnel of information that comes into your dealership, and unless you take the time to look for it and really keep on top of it, it's not really fed to you. So oftentimes there'll be a sort of a gap, and I get to fill that gap. I get to go in and explain, you know, new troubleshooting techniques and you know, things that they can be asking or doing better. And everybody's so appreciative. They're so grateful that I can come out and help. I'm happy to help, and it's almost, and that may be my next venture is an instructor, once I move on from this position. But that's I think that's ultimately what I get out of it is helping people better understand, and making their job a little bit easier.
Did you always know you wanted to work in this field, or were there other fields you've thought about?
No, no. So, I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be what they call a laser surgeon, a doctor that helps people with blood clots and, you know, clogged arteries. Turns out I didn't do well with blood. So, my second thought was maybe a pilot, which meant maybe moving to North Dakota to go to the university there and learn how to fly. But my girlfriend at the time said no, so I didn't do that. I mean, I always knew I'd be technical. I was really good with electronics and computers, um, And I mean, that's also a good thing to know for automotive, because probably 60% of the car now is electrical and computers, and being able to understand how all that works, it's only growing. It's only going to be more and more. But I mean, yeah, I was in retail. I was a bank teller. I was an electrician, uh, which was I also really enjoyed that for a while. But it took a while to come back to automotive. And same thing. I didn't really know, if I had somebody sharing like this right now, I might have had a better idea that, hey, I can actually go do that, enjoy it, and make a good living out of it. Back then I just thought of guys working on cars more as grease monkeys kind of thing. Um, but no, there's a lot of opportunity out there right now, and it's fun too. I mean, the cars that I've been able to drive over the years, uh, everything BMWs, Porsches, Mercedes, Audis, um, the Porsche Carrera GT, Acura NSX, that kind of stuff. Unless you're somebody that can afford a vehicle like that, you're not going to have another opportunity to get in a car and drive. Um, I've been that with the Porsche experience, and with same thing with Honda. They have their own tracks, and they have their test tracks and everything, and you can visit um, the track and drive cars there like you wouldn't be able to drive them on the street. So tons and tons of opportunity. You just got to keep your eyes open, and keep your passion, keep your good attitude about it.
I know you talked about having meetings with different people from all around the places. Is this more of a job that you work solo, or do you work in teams and at any time?
So what I do right now, there's some teamwork because I have to coordinate with dealers and with district managers and everybody else that oversees. But most of what I do right now is on my own. Making my own schedule. I do my own troubleshooting. I can reach back. There's other people in my position across the country, so if I'm stuck, I'll reach out and try to get more information. But when when I was in publications, it's very much a team effort. Um, I was more of a technical consultant there because of my background. A lot of publications people were they were more about writing and grammar and producing publications. They might have had a little bit of technical knowledge, but I served them much better that way. Uh, but yeah, so teamwork. Definitely, there was a lot of teamwork there. A lot of stuff is completed by committee. So if a bulletin has to go out about a certain part that needs to be replaced, you've got 3 or 4 different departments at least looking at it and all making their comments and reviews. And it's important to understand where they're coming from, whether it's legal or technical or just making it easier to read, the visual aids, that sort of thing. You have to be able to be open to what everybody has to say.
And then I was wondering if you could share about an experience you've had where maybe in your early years or maybe even now you made a mistake and how you overcame it.
Oh, mistakes. Yes, there's plenty of mistakes that will be made. But that's another big part of attitude, is the one that I could think of off the top of my head was when I was at U-Haul. So I was fairly fresh to the trade school, and it was my first job with my own toolbox. And I was doing an inspection on the vehicle, and we're supposed to check the charge on the air conditioning system. And this was a system that had been converted from an older style air conditioning refrigerant system to a newer, more environmentally friendly one. And because I just went after it and I didn't want to ask questions, I figured I was supposed to know what I was doing. When I removed one of the valves, the caps for the valve, not realizing that it had been shrink wrapped, it opened up the system and refrigerant came squirting out and hit the hood. And so of course I was embarrassed because I should have known that I had to, especially for U-Haul, because they don't want people tampering with or trying to steal refrigerant. You need to remove the sheathing there in order to hook up the machine and check the charge. But that was it. I was new. Like I said, didn't want to embarrass myself and ask questions. I'm supposed to be a mechanic and do this right. But you can't be afraid to ask questions. There's no dumb questions. We'd rather you ask and get the information to do it right the first time, then maybe cause something worse.
And just going back to the education part, just to understand like the school better, is that kind of like a community college? Like, do you take classes throughout the day, or how did that work for you? How was your school path?
So yeah, with Universal Technical Institute, they're just a trade school. So and unfortunately in California, you only get a certificate of completion. You don't get an AA or anything like that. Um, it might be different with Sacramento because they also have a diesel program, and I think combined you might get that associate's degree. But no, so it's just a trade school. You know, it's not cheap, but like I said, if you make the most of it, it's definitely worth it. Um, for me, it was I was working full time and going to school, so I'd be at the dealer from 7 to 4 during the day, and then my class was from 7 to midnight at night, 5 days a week. Um, I was much younger. I don't think I could do that today, but it also shortened the amount of time that I gained experience because I was working in the field and going to school for the same thing. So by the time I graduated school, I had my ASE master certification because I was taking those certification tests while I was going to school, and I was working at a dealer, so I had work experience and school experience, and that's how it worked out for me. It definitely shortened it, but you know that doesn't have to be the path for everybody. I've worked with plenty of guys that started washing cars, and they're just as good if not better than I am at troubleshooting these cars. There's certainly guys in management in Honda that I was surprised at how many people have come up from so far. They started working at there's a parts distribution warehouse that's there in Stockton near our training center, and you can start working there, and those guys have worked up. There's a call center in Southern California that you're just taking calls from customers, and those people end up moving up into district management positions. So yeah, anything you can do if you're interested in the cars at all. There's so many aspects to it, even the sales side, and then there's design and building, manufacturing all across the country that are opportunities. So, and you never know where you're going to go. I never thought I'd be on video, making videos for technicians, reading off a teleprompter in makeup and everything. Never occurred to me, but it brought me there, and it was a lot of fun. It was very fulfilling.
And I think this will be the last question. If you have any recommendations or advice for these students, or just anything that you think you probably left out, you can go ahead and share it with us.
Well, I guess I'll just go back to it's really about attitude, right? Is it having a good outlook, being optimistic, and enjoying what you do is most important, because if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to do well. So yeah, if you like cars, you can start, you just understanding them, and it can take you anywhere from working on them to designing. And there's so many things that are designed on a car. It's not just one person designing the entire car. You've got so many aspects, from just the mirrors to the cup holders to the material on the seats to how the car drives and suspension and everything. That there's a lot of opportunity with it. So it can take you far. Just have a good attitude, and let people that can help you, let them help you. Ask questions and show interest, and you'll go far. And I mean that should actually apply with just about anything. But you can see, hopefully, I at least demonstrated all the opportunities that you might have in the automotive field beyond just changing oil.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming to talk to our students and taking the time out of your day to talk to our students. We really appreciate it. Yeah, on behalf of MDUSD and all the staff, or just me and Greg here. But thank you so much, and the students. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and stop.
Thank you.